Hello, so I'm going to be showing how to make pixel art from 3D models, or pixelate art from 3D models. I can show the result here. This is what it will look like when you're done. I'm not going to be going into any modeling, but I'm just going to be making the material, which is just a material that is limited to a set amount of colors. I will say, like, the topology of your object is really important. You can see here the little finger looks a little bit odd, the knuckle there, the colors aren't quite right. And fortunately, when you do this, it is displayed quite well just in Blender before you render. So okay, I'm going to be using a color palette as well. While it's not a necessity, it's nice to use like if you have like a palette, like a set palette for your game, then it's useful to just have it there. I'm also using Blender 2.79, so that's just because I'm using Blender Render, and this process would be very different in Cycles or Eevee in Blender 2.8. So yeah. Okay, so if I just go onto my blank project here, just got a sphere with a blank material, a default material, a default sun, and a default camera, and my color palette loaded over here too. No, the camera's not default. I actually have it set to orthographic just so that it's in front of the sphere. That's the only thing I've really changed. I do assume that whoever's watching this has a good understanding of Blender UI, but the tutorial content will be quite simplistic, really. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is to change this tab down here, which will be there by default. Just change it to material. That displays the material in the viewport. So this is just like viewport shading mode, right? So now if we go over to the render tab, this little camera, and you can set the resolution to whatever you want, but I prefer to have it at like a low amount. It really depends on your game or whatever you're doing with it, but sometimes this process looks nice at higher resolutions too. I'm going to keep it at 64 by 64 though. If I render that, you can see that you're probably going to want to turn anti-aliasing off. It gives you, with that off, you'll have more jagged edges, which is more suitable for pixel art. Apologies for the noises, by the way. It's a noisy time of year. A lot of bikes around. Okay, so also going to change this to transparent just so that there's no background. So when it's imported into the game engine, you just don't have a background. It's pretty standard, really. There's just this tab down here. Okay, so next we change this back to 3D view. We're going to go over to the material tab here. Like I said, it's just a blank material. You can see how many times I've tried this. But yeah, it's just a blank material. You're going to want to change the intensity to 1, and then change the actual diffuse color to 1.1.1. This color won't actually determine the color of the material, but it will add influence to the colors that you choose later on. It'll make a bit more sense later on too. If you keep it on white, it's just, it will give you the colors that you choose if you keep it on white. Like I said, it'll make more sense in a minute. Like, so the diffuse shader model, if you put that onto tune, gives these two options here. Okay, so I'm now, we can see the specular here too, probably going to remove that. This process does actually work in specular tab as well, but I'm just going to do it in diffuse for now. But you can do the same thing over here too to add extra effect. So if I now turn on a ramp, and I'm just going to change the angle a little bit here. So with a ramp, by default, you are given like a black with transparency. You're going to want to put that to 1. So that's just click on this little peg or this step, go over here, turn that to 1. The way that this works, the color on the furthest left, if I change this to like red and go down here, the color on the furthest left is the color furthest away from the light source. It's pretty obvious to some, I guess. That's kind of how a ramp works. So the one on the far right is closest, far left is furthest away. And this black color here is a shadow from the lamp, from the sun lamp. And we actually don't want that shadow. So to get rid of that shadow, you go down to the input here. Excuse me. And just change it to result. And that will give you just the colors from the ramp. And like I was saying earlier, this diffuse, if you now change this, it's going to influence the color in some kind of way. Not really what you want, so just put that to 1. If I now change the size, so this is just the size of this color, I guess, the area in which this covers your model. If I change that to like 0.5, and then the smoothness is similar, it just kind of spreads out the fade. It spreads out this fade a bit more across your model, as you can see. So the next thing to do would be to add more steps to our color, and we're gonna use constant for this, but when you add more steps in constant, if you're not using a palette, this is quite, you're gonna want to do it not this way. So when you add steps, it's just gonna add like the color furthest to the left, which is kind of annoying. So if we just take those out, if we change it to anything other than constant, and then we add those steps in, and then change it to constant, you can see that you have a nice fade from this color to this color. And again, that's if you're not using a palette. You can kind of make the colors in between these two by doing that. Okay, so because we are using a palette, I'm going to change these to the colors from the palette. This can be quite time consuming as well if you're doing more than 4 steps, but it's not too bad. So that's pretty much it, really. There we have a nice pixelated image. Like I said, it doesn't really compare to hand-drawn pixel art with a model like this. Some of the things that you can change are the positions of these steps, and then so the size, the smooth, and the position of these steps are really dependent on your model. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It does look a bit it doesn't look great on this model, so if I just show you it on a different model and up the resolution a bit, you can see that it looks quite nice. Okay, so, and the next tutorial will be on adding toon outline to the shader. Okay, so thanks for watching. I hope someone finds it useful, and goodbye.